Good evening. Uganda has struck a last-minute deal with the United States to host over 2,000 refugees from the battle-stricken Afghanistan. The deal, which places Uganda on the global radar yet again for refugees, also brings into sharp focus the round debate on Uganda's foreign policy of both interventions and refugee hosting. Whether it's keeping the peace in Somalia, Central African Republic and Equatorial Guinea, or making war in South Sudan and DRC, Uganda remains a unique country on the handling of its foreign affairs. Is it doomed for failure, or is it a true brother to those affected by war? Tonight on The Spot, we analyze Uganda's foreign policy with Captain Francis Babu, a veteran leader and NRM stalwart. Francis Babu, thank you so much for having responded to our invitation.
Yes.
A warm welcome to you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I hope they will enjoy the show. Our viewers must be wondering what we're going to talk about.
Yes. Now, let me look at the broader spectrum of Uganda's refugee policy. And I've been thinking about, even before we even look at the expected coming in of the 2,000 Afghan refugees, if they could come. We have been commended by the world because of our positive refugee policy. And sometimes I'm thinking, in the region and the world, maybe they are taking advantage of our goodness, because already have 1.4 million refugees punching above our weight. Isn't that too much?
I wonder whether we are punching above our weight. I think we should look a little bit deeper. This is a humanitarian process. The government of Uganda is hosting already our neighbors, you know, and they seem to have handled it very well up to now, and the international community is happy with this, and I think they still think we can do it. Now, whether we are punching above our weight is because we are not directly involved, really. What we're doing is to give them a space, and the international community help us to manage.
Captain Francis Babu, you need to go to West Nile,
yes,
and see in some of those settlement areas,
yes,
the number of refugees in some cases has surpassed the, yes, number of the host communities. Yes. The fight for the resources, you know, trees, grass, or whatever it is, so that they can make a living. They already, some conflicts already emerge because you are living off an environment just like any other. And yet you are so many of you.
Yes, I agree entirely, and I've seen the pictures. I've followed the examples, and unfortunately, our friends in the north, we thought this was going to be for a short time. It's taking longer than expected, and even as we talk right now, a new problem has started in southern Sudan. That was not supposed to reach this far, but I think the Uganda government has to think very hard. And I think one of the major reason might be to accept this particular emergency, because it is an emergency which happened in Afghanistan. Maybe this is another way of telling the international community, you gave us 1.4 million people, and I'm happy that even UNHCR, the United Nations High Commission of Refugees, has recognized that the 1.45 billion people who are here are not very well looked after. And I think this is going to help us to try and get these other people who have been having the problems you're talking about. Meanwhile, this particular group that is coming is only here for 3 months, from what I hear.
Okay, now talking about that particular group, if they come, because it is very amazing how Ugandan officials speak, because yesterday I was listening to Honorable Nyakuni, who was the Minister of State for Refugees and Disaster Preparedness, yes, who was saying the Americans have put in a request. The Ugandan government, through the president, has given it a green light. Today, the Honorable Jejo Dong is speaking in a different language.
What was he saying?
Well, they have not yet agreed on anything. Yes. Why, you have been a minister before, why is it in most cases officials in government are always contradicting themselves? They'll never sing from the same hymn sheet.
I don't know why that happens, because I feel they are supposed to be sitting in one meeting. First of all, they have a cabinet, if not a subcommittee of a cabinet, and usually the chairman is the president or the prime minister or the vice president. Now, I really don't know why that is happening. When I was there, we never had too much of that.
But do you realize that it looks very shabby? They look very disorganized sometimes, with all respect, on major issues affecting the country. The minister will say something, a head of an agency will say something, a head of a department will say something, the president will say something, all of them will be colliding.
Well, I hope what they reported about the Minister of Foreign Affairs was correct. But the Minister of Disaster Preparedness is the one I have been going with, following. I don't know. I really feel if that is what happens, then it's unfortunate.
Okay, the Americans entered a sovereign country, occupied it for 20 years. Of course, they are looking for their enemies. Maybe they didn't even have to stay there for 20 years. Created a mess in that country, you know, and now they're asking us to clean it up for them?
No, I don't think so. But I think, by the way, when you're talking about that region, don't talk about Afghanistan alone. Start from Israel, from 1947. You start from Israel, you go to Lebanon, you come to Syria, you come to Iraq, you come to Kuwait, you come all the way to Saudi Arabia. With Yemen now, you go to the Gulf, you now go to Afghanistan, Iran, and then all the way up to Pakistan. Now, that is a turbulent region, whether you like it or you don't like it. That's a fact. Now, the question that we must all answer, the Americans, are they importing the turbulence of that area into Africa? Because we have things like Boko Haram, we have things like Al-Shabaab.
In the Sahel.
In the Sahel. And the next question you're going to ask, are you going to put us in harm's way? Because you see, if you're going to put us in the harm's way, then I think we should think twice. But if it is an emergency humanitarian situation of employees, for example, of those who have been working for the Americans in that area, and the Afghanistan are not going to think that we are...
yes, that's what?
That we are going against their country, then as far as I'm concerned, that's the only problem I'm worried about. I'm worried about the Afghanistan taking us as being against their country. If that doesn't happen, because the new Talibans have said they are coming with a completely new chapter. They are going to behave in a certain way. My worry is the Talibans are not very easy people, because one of their commanders, as I was listening to the news, had been in Guantanamo Bay for 8 years. The next question is, how does he look at those who support the Americans? So these are going to be the questions to be answered.
No, Captain Francis Babu, the Americans and the NATO alliance have been seriously exposed. Their withdrawal was shambolic. They are running around with their tail between their legs, licking their wounds, choking on the mess, and they are saying, a country somewhere in Africa, please help. At this time, shouldn't our leaders be saying, I know the magnanimity of the Ugandan people, the spirit of Ubuntu, but doesn't it have a limit?
You know, all that glitters is not gold. All these big powers and Western powers, now and then somebody has come out and proved that they are not all almighty. For example, in Vietnam, the same thing happened. Now something is happening in there. Something happened in Syria, which nobody wants to talk about. In fact, the Islamic State was started in Syria by the same people supporting it. It ended up being something very interesting. So the whole point, we are now discussing about a geopolitics. The question is, does Uganda have to be part of that big unfortunate situation? That is up to our leaders. If our leaders feel it is safe, fine. But I've got a feeling we are not going to be very safe with these people here.
Look, I've been thinking, the NATO alliance has about 28 countries or so, or thereabout, in Europe and Australia and Canada and the United States. They are involved in Afghanistan.
Yes.
I mean, America itself is a continent.
No,
well, I mean, they have resources, they have the geographical expanse. You can take your people, fly them somewhere in Nevada, vet them, and then keep them there. Why? I mean, you have resources, you have the landmass, you have everything. You have the NATO alliance that was escorting you on your military adventure in Afghanistan. Let them do it from there.
They have 50 states, and each one of these states was a former country. Some of those states are bigger than Uganda, and if you took the 2,000 people and divided them in the 50 states, each one would take about 40. But that's not the argument. The argument, I think, there's an emergency, and maybe the ones they want to bring to Uganda are actually mainly workers who had been working with them, and they would like to bring them here as a transit before they can take them to United States, because I think United States is taking quite a big number. I've forgotten the number, but I read it somewhere. It's a very, very big number going to.
Yes, but my argument, Captain Francis Babu, is that you have about 28 member states that were involved in the NATO alliance.
Of course.
That was in Afghanistan.
Yes.
They have their nations. They're big. Their countries are bigger, even some of them bigger than Uganda.
That's right.
Geographically and even resources.
Yes.
So if they created a maze, let them take them in those NATO alliance countries and then vet them from there.
Australia is still not very big.
Yeah. So why are we so fast even to think about? I know, despite our humanitarian ground, there should be, somebody should be asking those questions, because it appears we're being taken advantage because of our goodness.
My biggest worry is importing that turbulence into our country. That is where my problem is. Otherwise, if it is helping, we are already helping the Sudanese, we are helping the Congolese, we are helping people from Rwanda, and I think Uganda has proved beyond reasonable doubt that they are very kind to refugees. I think the Americans should have been kind to us, and you know, as you put it very correctly, and used one of those countries you're talking about.
So now, I can imagine military generals around the world must be taking a lot of lessons of what happened, because how do you get into a country? You create an army of 300,000 people, you arm it to the teeth, you train it, it has an air force, and then they're versing 70,000 Taliban, and in only 2-3 days, you know, the country that you have built and the army you have built and trained for 20 years crumbles in 2 days.
I don't think you should waste your time on that one, because even today when I was looking at the news, the former president Karzai and Abdullah, who are the very big stalwarts in Afghanistan, were sitting with the Taliban and they were discussing about the new setup. And the former president, he said, "Oh, I left because I didn't want bloodshed," which means they had agreed. I think the whole thing of Afghanistan, the ones who were in government, plus those who were coming in, had already agreed how this should be done. And I think we should not even split hair on this one.
So in other words, it's not enough for you to have a military might and have the economy strength and everything. You think you're going into a sovereign state and you think you can occupy it. Sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, Afghanistan is a lesson for them.
If you read
because the pictures of Kabul are not different from the pictures of Saigon.
If you read the history of Afghanistan, the Afghans are very stubborn people. In fact, in that area, the different tribes in Afghanistan, a part of them are in Pakistan. They are very determined people, and they are a very interesting group of people. So that's an argument for another day. We can have a long time on that. I've looked at the Afghan people. They are not a joke. And what they did, they made the Russians put their hands up and go back to Russia. They have made the Americans go back, and even before that, the British.
At least the Russians were there for about 10 years, and then when they left, the government that they left in Kabul was able to stand for about 2 years.
Yes,
but you know, that government outlasted even the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union collapsed. But for them, these guys were just still on the airport trying to move, and the thing has crumbled.
In that area, the most respected person, including the Pakistanis, including the Iranians, the Afghan people are very highly respected. They are very determined people.
So now, every time I'm listening to government officials, everybody's talking about the request from the United States government to have 2,000 Afghan refugees come here. But Ugandans are all over. I can imagine there are Ugandans in Afghanistan. There should be Ugandans in Kabul. And the Ugandan government is not even talking about them.
No. Americans, even when they were in Iraq, a lot of Ugandans went there to work with the contractors. the army contractors, the people who guarded certain areas and so on, they are from Uganda. Yes, there are Ugandans in Afghanistan, and I think very strongly somebody should try and tell us how they are going to bring them back. If the Americans want us to work with them, I think the Ugandans should be first on the list. Are they bringing them back? Are they going to put them among those they're evacuating? Because it is the...
You think that should be part of the discussion, part of the deal?
I
that
think,
if you're coming, you have to bring our people.
I think for me, if we are bringing back the Ugandans, okay, you can bring your 2,000 people, bring the Ugandans first. And then at the same time, give us some COVID vaccines. Don't hoard them. I mean, really, it's give and take now. I think time has come for us to be sincere.
You want to be conditioned to something like that?
Oh, yes, why not? I mean, by the way, I was very happy today because I saw some country was giving us some COVID vaccines. They should allow us to buy them. They should allow us to bring them in our country and help our people. And we need, because they are now, by the way, there's now a booster. Yeah. Those who have already got vaccines, there is a booster now after 7 months, which you are supposed to get because of the Delta.
Yeah, like the third, you mean like the third jab?
Yes, it's the third jab. It's called a booster, yes.
Okay, now, you earlier said there's a possibility that the coming in of these people could also create an enmity because they are running away from a group of people who could be their enemies. So if you are going to offer sanctuary to them, then to some people in those areas will become a legitimate target.
Well, the Afghans, the Taliban have come with a completely new approach. They have said they are going to be more liberal. They are going to allow women to go to school. They are going to allow them to go to university. They are going to work with the people. They don't want any problem. They even say they will not enter Kabul except to keep security. And so far, they have kept it up.
You know, but they also added they were going to do that within Sharia law.
Yeah, but my brother, what is Sharia law? You know, people keep on talking about Sharia law. I keep on laughing. Sharia law is a cultural law, which is not, now it is written, of course, comes out of the book. But we all have cultural laws in our countries. The only difference is that the Sharia law is enforced slightly more strictly. But if you look at the Sharia law very carefully, and you looked at our old cultural laws in these parts of the world, you might find they're the same. The only difference is these people enforce them in a very difficult way. If you're a thief, they cut your hand off. If you're this, they stone you. These are the kind of the difference. But even in the Holy Book, there was a lady who was stoned, if you remember. So this is nothing new, really. I think I'm not worried about the Sharia law if it is very well, if it is applied correctly. It is when you play around with it. But if you apply it correctly, it's a cultural law. For example, you talk about women and all that. But you know, the Taliban of the 90s are not allowing girls to go to school. Yes.
The Taliban of the 90s, they are not allowing a woman to work without male company or something like that.
Even now they have said it.
So
but the whole point...
The Taliban of the 90s were actually not giving freedom to half of their population, the women.
Then the Talibans of the 20s, the 2021st, they are saying, no, for us now we are going to allow our wives to go to work. We'll allow them to go to university. But the women should not just loiter around. They should move around with a male husband or brother or sister, with the relatives who is a male. Well, I don't think that's a very big problem. It's something they can sort out as time go by.
So, do we have capacity to vet individuals who could come in so that among them, there's no possibility of having somebody embedded among them and it could be a wrong character? Because, I mean, if people come in, because we're supposed to vet refugees, you know, there is a reception center, then you're registered there, they get to understand you, and then you're accepted in.
No, one good thing...
Or what the Americans bring is what...
One good thing, if those people who are coming here are not a threat to Afghanistan, they are not a threat. They are going to come to a reception center. After 3 months, they're going to be taken to other countries in Europe and the United States, because the reason they're asking that, a huge number is going into the States, a huge number is going into Europe, and I think these people are going to have resistance from their own citizens. So these 2,000 people, I think they'll be here for a short time, and they should go. Now, my question would be, you know, we have a relationship with Kabul. we have I think an embassy council or something like that.
In fact, should I say our boss here?
Yes.
There's a Serena in Kabul.
Good. So if we have a relationship, we can talk to Kabul. I mean, we are a nation, and if they have any complaint, we can ask them, instead of them getting annoyed, they can talk to us, and we'll tell them we're doing this out of humanitarian reasons, and we are not out to create a problem. My only problem is we are not doing it like we did the hijacking of the Air France. This is not the same. These are people who are coming because they feel threatened, and after some time, if the Afghans do very well, the same people might want to go back.
So I don't know why the United States is asking a sub-Saharan African country with nothing in common with the people in that part of the world, yet you leave countries that are closer to you. You have an alliance with them, like Turkey and the rest, where they could have gone, and then they easily, the religion is the same, the culture is more or less the same, instead of just bringing them somewhere.
No, but I think our performance as being a reception for refugees has been very good, reasonably good. We might have a few problems here and there, but we've done very well as compared to other countries. And I think because of that...
I think Turkey, which is also a Muslim country, has even more refugees than us.
That's right.
And Turkey is a member of the NATO alliance.
Apart from the NATO and the United States, there are three countries which actually agreed. I think one is ours, there's another one in the Middle East somewhere, and a third one. There are three countries. The whole point is, there are countries which can handle the situation a little bit better. And UNHCR, which is the
High Commission for
agency that is going to be, they recommend to the Americans. And Uganda is one of those. In the UNHCR recognizes Uganda as one of those people who have got a good reception center.
I think, Honorable Captain Babu, I don't know how you understand this, because at one point I saw 200 people, refugees, appear on the border of an Eastern European nation. And it was a crisis. And we're talking about 200. It was a crisis. International news, because 200 people have appeared on a border. We have 1.4 million, and we're a poor country. And even they're adding another pressure. I just don't get it.
You are talking about Syria. Syria and its turbulence, and the people who moved away from Syria and went who want to go to Europe, and the Europeans having a lot of problems, starting from all the way from Greece all the way up to United Kingdom. Yes, I understand. The difference is the Syrian thing was so turbulent, and the people who were going were not being evacuated by one of those powers. These people were just running away from the country, and they were going to Europe. This one is, there's an emergency. They've asked us for this particular group of people. We want them to help us. Now, for us here, the ones in Sudan and this other. You remember when the NRM first came in? I think there were some refugees here. One day the president said, look, why are we suffering with these people, taking them? Why don't we just wake up one morning and ask them to go home? And they did. And it worked very well, and people went back to southern Sudan. So the whole point, I think, is the way we have handled this situation. And we are being recognized as people who can handle 2,000 people. I
know even after the Second World War, I think Uganda hosted Polish refugees,
yes.
Refugees from Poland. So
yes.
This won't be the first. We had European refugees in our country,
yes.
in the 1940s. But talking about the South Sudanese refugees and those we have from Congo, Burundi, and other places, I've visited a number of refugee settlements in Uganda, including in a Kivale settlement. And when you look the facilities they have in the settlement, for example, education, vis-a-vis education system outside of the settlement, you find people in the settlement are much better. I'll give you an example. For example, yes, in Nakivale, yes. Window International, which is an agency handling refugee education issues, has also incorporated vocational training skills within the O-level system of Ugandan curriculum, so that if somebody gets an O-level certificate, you also get a vocational skills certificate. In other words, people outside the settlement are like, look at them. They seem to be much better. And that, they look at them with envy in terms of education and other resources they have. And it's a true story in Ganaki Valley.
I've heard that story, not only there, even in West Nile. Maybe it is a challenge to our government. This is a good point you've brought. Maybe our government should have a challenge that the people around those areas should also get the same sort of facilities. And one of them is to ask the same group of people to try and help the residents of those areas to be at par. And I think it can be done. I don't think there's anything impossible. It's a challenge, it's a good one. You've brought it up. I've heard about it. Can we do the same so that our people do not feel that there is a problem?
So there are people who leave their country because of war, but they have special skills. I don't know whether the government of Uganda is identifying among those refugees so that at least you can harness from their skills so that they can bring something into the country, integrate them. If they're teachers, if they're lecturers, if they're doctors, if they're engineers or anything, so that they can be of use. Because somebody can come and then you're in the refugee settlement, you have your skills, maybe they've been highly qualified, but because of war, here they are, and we are not harnessing what they have.
I think Uganda has got so many problems, they don't have time for that. It is the Western countries that actually take the best out of those refugees. If you look very carefully, even the basketball players, the best basketball players have been got from the Sudanese, and they are now playing in their big league in the United States. Not only that, they are best doctors. I saw one in South Africa who was doing a fantastic program with COVID. We've got a lot of them who have been taken to the Middle East. A lot of them have been taken. Now, these are refugees. Now, when they come to these camps, the United Nations High Commission of Refugees is supposed to find them places to go, to study, to work, and so on and so forth. And most of them have gone to the Western countries, yes. So but we have not managed to get them to some of them to work with us.
I know, our Pan-Africanist kind of agenda and the spirit of Ubuntu maybe dictates that you welcome because we're a welcoming country. And at one point, Uganda was a refugee creating, exporting nation. Mm-hmm. And I'm told in the 1970s or thereabout, Somalia, Mogadishu was hosting a conference between Uganda and Tanzania when we were having issues with Tanzania. So the Somalis were bringing us together to say, to be at peace. So, but now see what is happening, that we have to go there. But at one point, they are the ones who are trying to pacify between Uganda and Tanzania. What is happening in Afghanistan? How can we, who are in the African Union and have a force in Somalia, ensure that what has played out in Kabul does not play out in Mogadishu? Because there will be a time when we have to exit.
Well, I think ours really, it is so important that I think the African Union, including Uganda, should think very hard about Somalia. After so many years, what do we do for Somalia? Do we continue on this axis of continuing to fight with the fundamentalists? Should the international community, through African Union and the United Nations, find an answer to this problem? I think it's a little bit more complex than just Uganda. Uganda happens to have agreed to keep, it's not only Uganda, I think even Rwanda is there.
No, Burundi, Uganda, Kenya, and
yes.
Ghana and Nigeria.
Yes, and I think time has come, and I agree with you entirely. We've been there for many years. Should we continue or not? And I think it's a very deep discussion. It's something not very easy, just to leave a country so that it becomes like Afghanistan, so that a particular group of people just take it over. But I think a time has come for the Somalis, because now we now have Somaliland, and then we have Somalia, Mogadishu, Somalia, then we have the other French-speaking. I think time has come for the Horn of Africa, which has been a turbulent area for many, many years because of the big powers. You know, the Horn of Africa, one of the turbulences there is caused by the big powers because they want to control it, because of the Red Sea, the Red Sea coming into...
And the coastline.
Yeah, the coastline. There's a lot of problem with that. So we need our countries to sit down, and even with the Somali, even with Al-Shabaab. I don't see why we don't talk to the Al-Shabaab. sit down and talk to them. I mean, the Taliban have been talking to the United States. And the United States came to look for Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda left a long time ago. So it is the Taliban they've been talking to. The question is, can we talk to Al-Shabaab?
Yeah, but the Americans and the Taliban were enemies. So Al-Shabaab is not our enemy. For them, their enemy are the Somali government. So the federal government in Somalia is the one that should be talking to them.
I think the Americans and the Russians and all of us have learnt a little bit about the Afghan people. The Afghan people do not have enemy. They are nationalistic. They love their country. And as far as I'm concerned, they've been fighting to have freedom of their own country. And they have used an axis to get, and they have won.
You know, every year almost, because the mandate of the AU force to remain in Somalia, they have been extending it almost every year. It should have ended maybe 5 or 6 years back, but every time it is extended and ends, the United Nations sits and they say, you know what, we need to extend, which shows you that the problem is still there. You know, the government is still wobbly. The security apparatus has not been built. So chances are that if Uganda steps out and whoever is there, then it can actually collapse very fast.
No, it's a very complex situation. You're talking about Al-Shabaab. You're talking about the Middle East. A few minutes ago, you're talking about a region. What is the relationship between Al-Shabaab and the Middle East and its turbulence? What are the problems? What is the fundamentalists in Yemen, in places like the Middle East, in different places? What are their connection with Al-Shabaab? How do we? What is their connection with Boko Haram? What is the connection with the Sahel group? What is going on? I think Africa has to sit down and get an answer to all these questions.
Yeah, but for us, as far as we're concerned, as a country, we're there. Ugandans have died in that country.
Have you recently listened about Mozambique, northern Mozambique?
Yeah.
Do you know that the same sort of group, which is like
it's also calling itself Al-Shabaab,
is causing problems there from Comoro? Now the next question is, why is this spreading? How do we look for answers? We can't just sit and say, I'm sure His Excellency the President and many other people who are sitting and looking at the African Union and therefore the intervention into Somalia are looking at recently a country, I think it is Rwanda, that has gone into northern Mozambique.
Yeah.
The next question is, what is happening in northern Mozambique? And not only that, you have another problem in Central African Republic. So you have a situation which is volatile in some African countries. In Mali, they are having problems also. So the Africa is got to sit down and find answers to this. And one of them was to try and unite the African countries, the armies and whatnot, so they can get solutions to all these problems. But I think Al-Shabaab really, at the end of the day, if some people really sat down and talked to them, they might consider.
I've been to Somalia like 3 times.
Yes.
But every time I'm there, I think there's less interaction between the AU force and the ordinary people. Because every time you can actually see that a dichotomy. These people are there, more or less looking like an occupational force, and the other guys doing their thing. First of all, there's a remarkable difference in terms of culture and everything between the people who have gone there and those who are there. So my hunch is, you step out, it crumbles.
Well, I'm sure the experts can tell us that, and that's a rather complicated issue. I agree with you entirely. The Somali issue is very complicated, and it needs a very strong input from different places. And the Americans, I think one of the things people are fighting for is the Americans. By the way, did you know that the Somalis who have gone to America have become very successful? Those who have gone there supposedly as refugees. So Somalis themselves
are very enterprising people.
Yeah, very enterprising people. They should sit down and find a solution to this problem. Now, okay, our forces might not be able to interact with the local people, but why don't the Somalis sit around and get the answer to these problems?
So, when the U.S. requests Uganda to host refugees, when you look at Uganda's foreign policy, we're in Somalia, yes, through the AU. Before that, we were in South Sudan. And I'm sure even Parliament was not consulted when we deployed in South Sudan. We've been to Central Africa. We also are in Equatorial Guinea. I've just been reading something online. Ugandan soldiers in Equatorial Guinea almost close to a mutiny of sorts. I actually talked to the commander, was saying, well, he was having a few people were having trouble in Equatorial Guinea. But we have a force there. Maybe 300 or 400 or something like that, protecting the presidents and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes are we not spreading ourselves too much?
Yeah, we might be spreading thin, but the whole point is our government, I think time has come for our members of parliament to put the question. Can we continue to spread thin? Why are we spreading thin? Are we protecting the African Pan-Africanism, or is it something completely different? I think time has come for these questions to be put, and I think they can be put.
Captain Francis Babu, we are going to take a break, but when we come back, I just want to change gears, because last Saturday the president gave a major speech on human rights, and he's talking about he's not going to tolerate anybody torturing Ugandans, beating Ugandans, arresting them without trial, and things of that nature. Those were good words, but are we going to see good deeds? We'll be right back. Welcome back. Are you watching On the Spot? My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Honorable Captain Francis Babu. I just want to shift gears now, because we really have to look into, there was a major speech by the president over the last weekend, and the president was talking about the protection of human rights, and I thought his words were musical, and I thought those were, his words were musical, but I wonder about whether the deeds will be the same. Captain Francis, you have served as a minister, as a member of parliament, you've listened to the speech, or you read about it, but you also know the record. What do you make of it?
Music in my ears. Frankly speaking, you put it correctly. It was music in my ears. The next question would be, is this the same person? That's what most people have been saying. Is this the man we used to know? I think it is a man of all seasons. We are talking about a situation whereby when it happened last year, when people died in that big demonstration, he said, yes, people have died. The numbers, he gave us even numbers, I think it was 30 and 20, and some of them would be compensated. And he said he was going to investigate. He has seen some of those people being shot, and he was going to come out with an answer. To me, that felt that there was going to be an investigation. Now, some people say, but why did he delay? Why can't he catch them? No. The president doesn't work like that. You know, what the president does, he gives his different organs to go and investigate. They bring the information back, and they have brought the information to him. He has looked at it, and he's satisfied that what was done was wrong. He did talk about certain things, and I'm very happy about it. He talked about the investigation not being very good. He talked about some of his cadres not being up to speed, and he talked about the way they were behaving, and that he talked about even the training. So the other day I was in one of the programs, and someone said, but after 35 years, you mean he's still training these people? No, that's not the argument. The argument is that our kind of training, is it that good enough that we can get our people to be able to have resilience during a situation of demonstration? Now, in other countries, the police for demonstration is different from the ordinary police, by the way. In fact, our neighbor here, they've got a police, police has got a demonstration unit, and then they've got GSU, which is a paramilitary. And it's completely different. Now, they know how to handle situations like those, because they are trained purposely for that. Now, the next question is, what kind of people do we take in our forces? So the president has got a big job. He has to say, look, I think there was something wrong. I have to go back to the public.
But look, here you have the chief executive of the country, the fountain of honor, the commander-in-chief, responding to the beating and the torture of the Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi. And he said, look, I went back and looked, because we were complaining. And guess what? I found out that he had actually been beaten properly.
Properly, yes.
And this is a man who came out, he's being supported to work. This is a man who needed hospitalization in the United States. Mm-hmm. And the fountain of honor is saying he had actually been beaten properly. Mm-hmm. A few years before that, I remember him saying that his hands were itching to land on some people, that if I can just land on them, my hands are itching. I remember, my hands are itching to get them. So what is the foot soldier supposed to do in the field if the commander is saying that language?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Is that the way the commander should be able to respond to some of these challenges? That is something that we've got to examine. And I think the only person who can answer that question is just he himself. Can he tell us what he meant by properly, what he meant by my hands are itching? But I wanted to tell him, when the hands are itching, you are going to get money, not beating people. But I say, at the end of the day, the president has gone, there's been a change over a period of time.
No, but after the Arua debacle, when Robert Chagulanyi was beaten so badly, Francis Zake was beaten into coma. Mm-hmm. Why? Because he was distributing food to people who are under lockdown. Mm-hmm. I've had a discussion with him. I'm like, when they put you in that truck, or maybe in that so-called drone, and you're moving with them, what conversation goes on in that car? And Francis Zake was telling me, you know what, I don't think they're even human.
There's no conversation. I think you should have answered that question. He was like,
well, I thought if they can beat you before cameras and they put you in the so-called drone, so I wanted to know what happens in that drone. It was like camera. Those guys, I think they're like robots.
I don't want to justify anything. And I think when we're sitting here on a national television like this one, we should really be very, 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 very candid.
You know why I'm bringing that example?
No,
because the Honorable Zake went to court.
And he has been paid.
Money. Yeah, but, well, he's been given money, but nothing closer to what he suffered. Of course, nothing can bring back, can stop the pain he went through.
You know, it's very difficult. But this has not only happened here. I'm sorry to say that people might think Uganda is different from other countries. I've been in other countries where people were killed, their fingers were cut and things like that.
Yeah, we deserve better, Francis.
No, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to say that this is very unfortunate. If these kind of things are happening in our country, they should stop. And if the other day the president, what he said, what we have called music to our ears, and he can live up to it, I think we should give him a thumbs up and say, please, Mr. President, continue on that line. Let us clean up what has gone wrong. And if possible, extend the hand of friendship. Call these people and tell them, look.
Do you think this speech is perhaps also, he gets a lot of intelligence, he gets a lot of information. Could he have seen maybe there's a gathering storm at the international level? Look, the Sudanese want to send Bashir to the ICC and all that kind of stuff. We have had our own trouble for quite some time. Is this truly from within, or there's a pressure from without?
Whichever way it is, he has done something about it. Whether it is from outside or whether it is within. To me, if the Americans are the ones who are tickling him or somebody else, fine. Let him go get into line. I mean, the whole point is the president getting on a new chapter so that we can clean up the mess that has been created by our unfortunate political weaknesses that we have and challenges. And I think if that is so, whether it is from outside, whether it is from within, whether it is from Mutura Kungo, you know, this witchcraft, fine. Let him get onto the line. Let us have a better country. And that's where now, what people are saying, don't stop there. Get the culprits who got involved in these things and take them to the courts of law. Once you've got the information and the people have been misbehaving, please bring them to book. You
have been a member of parliament representing Kampala Central. You can understand the social intelligence of Kampala. You know, the commander-in-chief can speak like that, but God forbid tomorrow we're going to have some kind of altercation between the police and the people. You think these words will come to bear on them?
No, the police have, in fact, recently after the president spoke, they've had several meetings. They want to see how they can implement what the president is saying, which I think would be a very good idea. Which I think would be a good idea.
So some of those...
By the way, the police...
Some of those people, men in uniform...
The police you're talking about are not really the biggest culprit of this. There is a special group that does all these things.
Yeah, but you know, even people who are in police, some of them are not police, trained policemen. Brigadier Lokech is a soldier, hardened soldier. Actually, he was more. He came out more forceful in the street battles of Mogadishu. No wonder they called him the Lion of Mogadishu.
The lion. Maybe he has become a cub now. The whole point is very simple, and people should not tell you these lies. The training of the army personnel is very high up, and they are also told when they are fighting to be very careful to create collateral damage. They are also told how to handle civilians. The army also has a military police. The military police has got also code of conduct, like any other police. The most important thing is bad manners are bad manners. There are people who have got bad manners right from their background, but the training is different, and I think the president did talk about it, that some of us bring our rudimentary behavior into the system.
We are all Ugandans, so
yes, I know. So I think what we need to do, and this is very, very important. I've been watching other people in the world. They take their elite into the army. Lee Kuan Yew used to take their best student to Sandhurst. The best. So the question is, do we need to review who we train in our armed forces and the police?
yeah, but wait,
why do people do
some of those men in the UPDF are some of the best trained.
No,
they're well schooled.
But that's very new. That's very new. We've just been very lucky that recently we got some new ones, but we have some older ones who have got very bad habits. But the good ones are good. So the whole important thing is, how can we get our elite to join the army? How do we make the army attractive? For example, many years in the United States, it was great for children to join the army. How do we make it attractive so that our best join the army and the police? Let's not talk about simple things. Let's get good ideas and innovation.
But I have seen, as a journalist before, on the streets of Kampala covering riots and all that, sometimes you see men in civilian clothes, armed to the teeth, shooting at people. I mean, they have no name on them, they are not in uniform, there's no insignia. You even wonder, even if you're going to report, where do you report? You mean embedded? I mean,
you're talking about the Kibwoko squad, now you're talking about the gun squad?
Yeah, there have been people with guns and in civilian clothes shooting at civilians.
Yeah,
and sometimes even the men in uniform taking orders from them.
We need to get the security committees, the national security, to really come out and look at this, that the average Ugandan is not happy with it. How do we solve that challenge? The people you've just talked about. If true they're there, and because we saw them on television, everybody saw them, how, and this is where people are saying, bring these people to book if they did shoot somebody. If not, how do we bring them to book? How do we bring them to order? And I think this is what we're talking about. And I think time has come from this music from the air by the president. Is it possible to get these people so that they also behave like the president? Or
so are you convinced that these words will also probably tally with the deeds moving forward?
I always give somebody a chance. The president said something the other day. Can we give him a chance to see if he can implement it?
What is his record?
Sorry?
What is his record on such stuff?
Record? No, the record has been good before. It has been. He has performed very well before. I remember when the NRA came to this country, a lot of people appreciated the force. It had done a very good job, and there are still some very good people in there. The question is, and majority of them are very good. A few people, bad eggs, who spoil the system, should be weeded out.
You ask that question, tell that story to the people of Mukula.
That was very unfortunate.
Captain Francis Babu, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'll open the line so that you too can be a part of this discussion. The numbers are going to be on the screen. You pick your phone and tell us what you think. First, you tell us your name and where you're calling from, and make it brief, precise, and concise, so that we can have as many Ugandans' views heard on this platform. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Honorable Captain Francis Babu. There are two issues we discussed tonight. The request by the United States government to have 2,000 Afghanistan refugees hosted temporarily in Uganda before they are maybe transferred to another place. And we have also looked at the President Yoweri Museveni's major speech on human rights violation and how he's saying a human rights violation should stop. So this is the moment when you get to have your own say. The numbers on your screen, you can pick your phone and call us, tell us your name and where you're from, and please make it precise. And should you maybe have a disagreement on the issues we have talked about here, that's okay. That's the nature of the discussions, but you can disagree with respect. So the issue that we're talking about was the human rights speech on human rights violations and how the president wanted something clean as we get the people to call in. There is a bigger elephant in the room, in the NRM room, and that is what happened in Kasese. Will this government really survive that moving forward?
No, apart from the propaganda, the people who went to the international court on the issue of Kasese, the government of Uganda was taken to the international court, and they passed a judgment. And they said, according to their investigation, what happened in Kasese was a war, and therefore what happened there was unfortunate. First of all, let's get that point clear. Now, to go back, what happened there? The collateral damage, because you talk about the civilians being killed and so on and so forth. This is something that, unfortunately, we'll have to live with.
Francis, to many people, this was execution of people that could have been subdued and then come out, either by hunger or any other thing.
I agree with you. This is something that I don't know if the international court gave us the answer. The next question is, what does the Uganda government say about this? What should the president and his team say about this complaint, which lingers on? It lingers on. In other words, it's with us. It lives with us. The next question is, are they going to find solutions to it?
People in that region have a long memory.
Oh yes,
And
I know that.
I can tell you that.
I know about the Bakonzo. Yes, I know about it, and I know about the Bamba. They're not very easy people. They're a very difficult group of people.
No, that's not the word. I don't think that's the right word, because they're nationalistic. They are.
That's what I'm saying.
But how about the gory images I saw of the Kamwenge mayor, as an example? The man who was tortured so badly, rotting knees.
Yes, I saw that one. Yes.
Rotting knees.
That was unfortunate.
But yeah, but these are some of the things that we have been able to see. There are quite a number of the things we haven't seen. The story that came out from Nalofenya, gory images, traumatizing stories.
Yeah, I think
I think our run has not been.
I think you are picking up all these little things, and I think the sum of all of them, and this is what I'm saying. The sum of all of them goes back to the point.
Let me just maybe take one or two Ugandans so that we get to know what they're saying. I have a caller online. Hello. Hello. Okay. Please, if you want to have a conversation, you turn down the volume of your TV so that it doesn't send an echo to you or to us. Hello? I have another call online. Hello? Hello? Again, if you want to have a conversation, you turn down the volume of your TV. If you keep it high, you'll have a reverb.
A feedback.
A feedback. Let me try to take another caller. Hello. Hello. I have a caller online. Hello.
I'm calling from Gwen.
Okay, go right ahead, sir. Let me ask my producer to turn up the volume here so that they can be able to hear you. Could you tell us your name again?
My name called Chabenga Joseph.
Yes.
So the way the police, the way beat the people, is beating people badly. Like the the cows, because now, you know, the skin of a pin is not hard like for a cow.
Mm-hmm.
For us here in the rural, we are not happy about it.
I'm sorry to say this, but let me ask the guys. I should have done this. The guys in transmission, turn up the volume in here so that they can hear you well. Okay, go right ahead. Okay. Unfortunately, the voice was very faint here. One day, Francis.
Yeah, no, I had it. He said the people in the rural areas are very unhappy. The policemen are beating them like cows, and they're totally unhappy about it, and they should be helped. What is happening is that the people in the production should turn on the volume of the studio so we can hear the people what they're saying.
All right. Well, so Ugandans have individual stories, things they have been able to witness, things they have been able to see. And, you know, maybe it was about time that the president came out with such a fundamental, major speech.
We have a challenge
about these issues. Because
it's a very big challenge. And the challenge is that we've got to call everybody to order, especially the people who are in uniform, and how they could behave in front of other people, how they should handle the situation. Mind you, we also have to change our attitude towards the police. Maybe we should sit so that we have this, what they call this education, which was being done by some of the police, the population and the police getting together.
Okay, community policing, something like that.
Yeah, policing, and we try to find out a relationship, we should strike a relationship. And I agree entirely. I have seen policemen do some very interesting things. Which is very unfortunate. Even when you talk to them, sometimes they are very annoyed.
Okay.
So we need to sit down and find a solution to the problems.
Okay, but I suppose maybe you can say even countries like the United States police has also been so nasty. I mean, if anything, the Floyd, sorry, the
one of the United States
yes.
is completely at a different level. But when I was in Britain studying, when I was in the pilot school in Oxford, the policemen used to walk with a baton. Today they are walking with machine guns in Britain. Again, the world has changed, but the policemen in Britain are still probably the best in the world. They're still very good. They're still very polite. We've got to find a way. We've got to find a medium where our policemen and the population can be on the same page.
Every time I read a report from the Uganda Human Rights Commission,
yes,
it indicts men and women in uniform. And it's almost, you may even think that the report you read of 2020 is the same as the report of 2021. Sometimes I think, do they even have a template and they just feed in the same things? Because even the recommendations are the same. The crimes committed or violation of human rights is the same. It makes me wonder.
Remember earlier on.
And this is an agency of government that is receiving, you know, reports from the public, and it is the same.
No, even the police itself, it's a standard agency, is getting those reports. The most important, and I think this is where it is, the quality of people we take into the police force. Is that the best? Should we require an elite group? What do we do? I think it's time we went back on the table and tried to find out. Remember when NRM came to power, they had 3,000 policemen. Today they have 43,000. The question is, do they just train en masse or do we train quality?
Another question. You train Ugandans. You're not going to get any other people. You're going to get Ugandans.
Yes.
So they are recruiting from the same.
I think we need to review the whole thing. It's not just. I don't think you can take simple things and say this is what's happening.
Let me try to maybe involve one or two more Ugandans before we come to a conclusion of this. I have a call online. Hello. Hello. I think I still have some technical issues in terms of how the phones are working.
Yeah, by the way, earlier on when we were talking about the Afghan, there's something I forgot to tell you. The Afghans are very highly educated people, and most of them have gone to the best universities in the West. For example, the former president you were telling me earlier on is a lecturer. in a university.
So despite those Punjabu where they are...
No. that is their tradition.
Okay.
Some of them are very highly educated. You should not judge them by their method. That was their tactic to fight. But when you see Abdullah, when he puts on a suit, he's in Oxford. He's an Oxford trained. He speaks very good English. And a lot of their women are also very highly trained. So the whole point is...
So they appear like Bedouins.
No, they are not. They are not. They are very serious people. We should be very careful with the Afghans. They are very sophisticated.
All right. Tonight our phones have not been, we had a technical issue, so we could not get a lot of your comments or questions coming into Captain Francis Babu. And everything has got to come to an end. Captain Francis Babu was going to be a parting shot.
Well, thank you very much. I think this has been a very good conversation. One of the things that we must thank God is that our country is still being respected by the international community, even after all the problems you've just described. And they are willing, they're saying we should bring the refugees here. I think this should be a lesson for us to make our country even better, so that we do not have these problems again. In other words, the president's speech, with the Afghans coming here, can we make the Afghans find Uganda probably one of the best countries in the world? In other words, can we try within the next year or so to change our people and their mindset that they do not have to violate other people's human rights? And if there are people who have done it, bring them to book. Let us see that there is a change. Let's respect each other. And His Excellency, please, not properly, not my fingers are itching. Let's have a different approach to this challenge.
Captain Francis Babu, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank you, all of you who have been a part of this. Thank you for your great company. I know we're a good country with good people. I know our hospitality and our magnanimity are values that are envied around the world. If we can build about the good values that we have, then we can take our country forward. Good night, and God bless Uganda.